Thank you so much. And Madam Secretary, I predicted you'd be a great Secretary of State. I want you to know that I think you are. We're proud of you, and we thank you for all your work. You're just giving this all you have. And the issues are so difficult. I'm going to ask you about the pace of our drawdown from Afghanistan, and then I'm going to ask you a little bit about the women, and I'm so glad you included them in your opening remarks. So let me just lay this out. Everyone at this table who was in the United States Senate after we were attacked by al-Qaeda voted to go to war and get bin Laden and decimate al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And I think it's fair to say, with the incredible leadership of our president and our amazing special forces, finally getting, bin Laden was a huge moment for us. And according to Leon Panetta, and it was reiterated by our chairman, Kerry, we're down to about 50 Qaeda in Afghanistan. And so as I look at it, before I vote to go to war, at every one of us here, that's the most difficult vote you ever make. I mean, I feel that we did what we said we wanted to do. And now, as I hear the president's words, I agree with everything he said, and you reiterated today. You said, and he said yesterday, it's time for Afghans to take control of their own future. And I think there's a big difference in doing that in 18 months or 12 months and waiting till 2014. And so I'm going to ask you a question about that when I get to the end of this. We have trained 290,000 security forces in Afghanistan. And I could break it down to 126,000 police and 164,000 Army. We have spent $30 billion training them. Now, I'm the chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee. You served on that proudly. We are desperately seeking $6 billion to keep the highway program going for a year. And people are saying, oh, my goodness, $6 billion. And we're spending, well, $12 billion a month right now in Afghanistan, is my understanding, and Iraq. A month. I need $6 billion for a year to keep people working on arms. So this issue of the drawdown, it's really a matter of not only the lives of our soldiers, but everything else, the money and the fact that Karzai has said on many occasions, this is a sovereign nation. He said, his last quote I have is, the Afghan people's trust in the Afghan army and police is growing every day, and preservation of this land is the job of Afghans. So you put it all together, and you wonder why we're looking at 2014. And I was hopeful that this surge that was, essentially temporary, I was hopeful that 33,000 could be moved out this year. Having said that, I respect the president. I know he's got everybody telling him their ideas, and we have to be humble if we don't agree, but I think it's important to state that I think this is leaving 70,000 troops. So my question to you is, what are those 70,000 troops going to do? I thought, since we have trained all these Afghans, we'd turn it over to them, and that we would shift to counterterrorism mission, which will help us with Pakistan, which is so dangerous, as opposed to counterinsurgency. So that's the first question. The second question has to do with the women, and then I'll stop and have you answer. I had the distinct honor and privilege of meeting with a delegation of Afghan women. You know how amazing they are, how courageous they are, how brave they are. They risk everything to come forward, and we remember the days of the forced burqas and all those things, and the Taliban leading the country. Just the women suffered. And yes, I'm so proud of progress they've made because of what we've done, frankly, along with them. So there, I said, what do you need from us? And they were very clear. They didn't ask for one more troop. They didn't even ask for one more day of war. They don't want that. They want a seat at that peace jirga, at that reconciliation. So I said, how many seats do you have? They said, 9 seats out of 70 slots. Now, I told him I'd do everything in my power, including writing legislation, which actually Susan Davis in the House wrote, to tie our aid to their seat at the table. How can we have a situation that's fair? The people that got hurt the most were those women and those girls. And to have so few of them at the table is just not right. So I would ask you, what are we doing to push forward to get more women at the table? And also, can you explain to me, what are those 70,000 troops going to be doing till 2014?
Well, Senator, first on the troop withdrawal, I think that, as the President explained last night, the surge, which you remember he announced in December of 2009 at West Point, was intended to provide additional military support for the troops we already had there and to accelerate certain aspects of the mission, like greater training of the Afghans, which had been languishing and now has quite impressed the trainers on the ground with the ability to get a force that is going to be sufficient. So when the surge leaves, as the President announced last night, we will be back to where we were when he announced it. And I think it's a bit of a misnomer to say then we can do CT or COIN, because in effect, we've been doing counterterrorism the whole time. We've been targeting high-value targets. We have been going after Taliban leaders, and we have been using the extra troops to hold territory that was finally taken back from the Taliban. So what the remaining troops will do for the remaining time they're there, because remember, we have a hard stop along with our NATO ISAF allies of 2014, is they will be continuing training. They will be continuing mentoring the Afghans who are going to be taking the lead responsibility. They will continue in combat to some extent, but in a much more limited field. And it is the assessment of the President and those of us in the administration, along with our military commanders, that this is the right pace of withdrawal. And as the Defense Department will tell you, we're on a downward trajectory of military spending because of the drawdown in Iraq and because of the drawdown now in Afghanistan, so that the Defense Department will be spending many billions of dollars less even in the next 18 to 24 months. But I think that the way this has been laid out, along with our allies, because remember the decision at Lisbon was agreed to unanimously by everybody, is the right way to proceed. And there will be continuing missions that will be important as we transition to Afghan lead. With respect to the women, I totally share your view that, you know, the Afghan women I've met and worked with are just among some of the most courageous people in the world. And some of them withstood just horrific treatment during the Taliban and the warlord years. Never lost their spirit, kept educating girls, kept providing health care, kept standing up in their own way against the oppression. And I think it's important that they have more seats at the table. It's something that I agree with and have been pushing on. There are many different interests that have to be accommodated in Afghanistan. And if you look just at the people with the guns, the men with the guns, who have to have some stake in the outcome, they are obviously a big concern to the Afghan government and to us. But we know from long work that I've done over many years now, and which was embodied in United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, if women are not part of the peace making, the peace will not keep to the same extent that it would have otherwise. We saw that in Central America. We've seen that in African conflicts, and we will see it in Afghanistan. So it's not only because we admire these women that we want them to have a place at the table, it's because they have to be part of making a lasting resolution in Afghanistan.